Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This series is just spewing out assorted thoughts about boatloads of entertainment media. Some ideas are serious, others not so much. There will be spoilers for the series currently featured, but generally only vague references to any other connected ones in a shared universe. Now, with all that out of the way, here we go. Batman. Bruce seems to be focusing his patrolling upon places like where his parents were murdered until he's aware of any specific crimes that require vigilante intervention. Knowing that someone might possibly be spared his pain likely really helps him deal with the incredible mental strain this sort of life brings upon a person. Also, him mastering the art of not scaring kids through his own actions is pretty important too. Kinda related, Batman waits a bit before stopping these robbers because he's trying to get information about Grissom or something. Once he knows they're just a couple of freelance stupidity clusters, he settles on making them tell their buddies about him after overhearing his crusade-related stuff. Eckhart probably finds out about the affair by contacting other dirty cops who deal with different top lieutenants in this criminal outfit. Jack knew Carl was gonna kill him because the way the guy said, personally. Bruce must have focused much on developing skill with quick stealth evasion deals once someone starts turning to grab a weapon, because not being capable of regular neck movement sorta limits one's up-close evasive options. That guy who reconstructs Napier's face kinda sucks at the aforementioned job, because he can only rely on somebody his former boss has found to be a subpar caregiver. Connected to this, the not fixable nerve junk has nothing to do with his skin color change. It's all about that smile. Speaking of which, the inability to rest his lips must make him more chatty as a sorta loud reflexive pain relief thing. Finally, this whole situation might make sleeping extremely difficult, resulting in top-tier craziness. On that note, Joker developing and embracing a new personality as the Cape Crusader's arch nemesis so quickly is just what he first thought of during his premiere Restless Night. Jacker's prettiness providing product poisoning plan probably came to mind while he was spending hours contemplating whether or not certain cosmetics would react poorly with his body's new chemical makeup. The guy's experience with studying art is what lets him know how to screw with these pieces in a selling price destroying sort of way. Vicky Vale's still pretty well kept after that hygiene horror hoopla because she has access to Bruce Wayne's fancy private import shop channels. These streets are fairly clean because of that upcoming parade. Joker would command his cronies to keep it like that too, so he can easily hijack said event. This one fellow has these bladed weapons because his boss wants certain things in that museum ruined in a very particular manner. After studying Jack's psychology, Bruce knows how to goad the guy into shooting him exactly where he plays preposterously protective plates. He wanted to do this so said dude would brag about shooting Mr. Wayne, which would subsequently cause many folks thinking there's at least some hospitalization action going on for him. Such a scenario makes it much easier to ward off him being Batman-related speculation once people start noticing Gotham's #1 son wasn't at a certain big deal anniversary parade. He also might want to avoid questioning about why he's not the one throwing $20 million into the street. Anyway, the Dark Knight might have figured out this party pulverizing plan after noticing Joker stole helium during his prior chemistry-concerned criming. Flying in front of Earth's moon like this is almost definitely what inspired this universe's Batman to make that him signal for James Gordon and the GCPD. Safety may have been guaranteed during that crash because Bruce installed a tinier version of his normally car-enclosing black titanium shell deal that can wrap around cockpits during absolute emergency. It of course doesn't get utilized very often because the man's a big fan of breathing. Also, the thing might help out with folks not stealing his tech, just in case that whole him living through stuff part doesn't pan out. Batman ends everything by pretty much literally making his foe dance with the devil in the pale moonlight. Neat, I guess. Batman returns. The Cobblepots don't treat young Oswald better because they are scared to seek proper medical help since their snobby minds mistakenly think a certain renowned physician named Thomas Wayne will make them laughingstocks in this city's financially elite circles. Anyway, Gotham has penguins in its sewers because Max Schreck was experimenting on them for some reason. Speaking of that fellow, he seems to have adequate improv skills. So, having a written speech prepared that only came about by harassing somebody like Selina Kyle must have solely been for superiority feeling relishing's sake. If anybody ever expected those window insides reaching mini signals surrounding Wayne Manor, Bruce would have activated some nifty device which makes bats into W's. Almost Catwoman starts breaking all her stuff following that ad message because most of it was obtained from Shrek's department store. Penguin already knows who he and his parents legally are because they had a fancy schmancy custom crib made for him, which of course got thrown into the sewers right after he did. Bruce spends loads of time in super darkened rooms so his eyes will already be properly adjusted once he begins the nightly Batmaning. The circus theme for this gang isn't just because Big Bird Boss grew up in one. It also helps out with that positive image harvesting Oswald's attempting because he can just say they're all lunatic Joker worshippers. This her shoulder thrown stuff Catwoman calls napalm must have been and some chemical Batman developed that burns just long enough for ledge hang ending shenanigans to ensue. He would have sought to develop such stuff following his problems during the last film's end. That truck full of kitty litter might be part of some program organized to help reduce Gotham's stray problem. Something about donating the poop-helping junk to folks so they are more adoption-happy or whatever. Initially, Oswald wishes to not publicly antagonize and or defame the city's famous vigilante because such action didn't work out so well for his happily homicidal predecessor. Selina sways him towards making the aforementioned hero look bad because she subconsciously already knows her beloved Bruce is his true identity and wants that other dude to fail spectacularly in a manner just like Smiley McHale people. Penguin knows a fair bit about popularity polishing because of all that time he spent stalking Max while uncovering those things the dude was hiding. Catwoman semi-believing she's kinda not fully human anymore is what grants her screaming capabilities that allow Screeches to reach glass-shattering levels. This also even gets her down to 5 lives. Alfred smiles after Bruce does that DJ move because he can't help but feel extreme joy whenever his adopted son behaves like a not trauma-controlled person. Gotham doesn't have lots of babysitters readily available because too many teens hang out in the streets at night in hopes to catch a glimpse of Batman. Bat stationery is a thing just in case his mobile causes too much property and or vehicular damage. There'd probably usually be some cash left behind too. This sewer area with Antarctica-themed wallpaper where those literal penguins hang out might be called the Iceberg Lounge. Mr. Helper Monkey might be willing to assist Shrek with his cage escape because they spent a lot of time together while he was still acting like Oswald's buddy. Selina must have lost count of what should have killed her because she was too mad to think after that glass crashing incident. Batman forever. Bruce must have coated the suit with lots of rubber after witnessing that electrocution situation between Catwoman and Max at Return's End. A little disclaimer here. I accidentally wrote down toothpaste instead of Two-Face when taking my first note. I got a good chuckle out of that. So much so that I've decided to pass on my usual switching between different nicknames and real ones, and instead merely alternate between Harvey and Toothpaste depending on the context. Both the Toothpaste and Harvey halves hate Batman for slightly different reasons. With the former, it's because crazy villain want glory, raw. The latter's case is just D.A. Dent disapproving of vigilantism after nobody saved his face. If there's ever an odd number of toothpaste-serving thugs at any given place, the other half is simply criming somewhere else. Nigma won't accept a later meeting with Bruce because the success scenarios he's gone over in his head have never involved anything but an immediate yes. The reason Mr. Wayne would give for a certain signal being visible everywhere in his business, if anyone ever asked about it, is, I want a heads up to start readying an advanced security protocol if super crimes are happening in the area. It'd probably be something involving non-animal themed versions of those shutters that covered the Batmobile in prior films. That acid would have been brought to Harvey's trial because the public defender had some sort of strategy involving his client not recognizing this supposedly rare substance. It isn't just raw brain power sucking going on here during this pre-information extracting level sinister machine point. Edward must also be taking on the guy's emotions a little, hence why he starts looking down on folks quite a bit more shortly after all this, just like his former boss generally did. The easy manipulation of cameras in this place is almost definitely tied to Bruce having to regularly erase things for Bat cover related deals. All this junk Ed had, which was already kinda Riddler-dressed, must be props from some failed, extra difficult question sporting quiz show that motivated him to create TV-enhancing technology. The Giant Wayne vehicle collection would be for both new Bat ride inspiration and spare part collection. Newly costumed Nigma must have been doing all that shoulder-touching and other toothpaste personal space invading action in order to guide his future partner into a location where any coin flipped would land in ways which guarantee him survival. Another bit, anything that apparently doesn't get a toss must have been decided earlier during one of Harvey's spare time killing hyper-repeated loose change acrobatic sessions. If he wasn't already suspecting that the guy is secretly Batman, then Edward wanted Bruce's mind content to help him with taking over Wayne Enterprises out of sight. Alfred must always take care to park the car somewhere in unseen costumes which can perfectly reliably successfully take place. The Dark Knight is extra into capturing toothpaste from this party onwards in order to ensure Dick has less opportunities for murder attempts. Once Riddler starts gathering actual information with his draining doodad, the first stuff he collected must have been related to fashion design junk, hence the plethora of new outfits he developed throughout the film's latter parts. Chase fawns over mysterious people like Bat Bruce because she's studied regular folks' behavior so much that approaching them in a relationship-seeking kind of way can never involve anything but imagining buttloads of previous case studies and whatnot. Sure, unclear life-having folks can easily wind up crazy too, but before the details get exposed, they are typically blank slatey enough to imagine other stuff might happen. Alfred has no problem with the prospect of adult trick-or-treaters, both because he's currently taking care of 2 giant kids, and also Batman's presence has made grown-up costume people just doing whatever a fair bit more popular in Gotham. The inclusion of extra armored buttock suit portions is simply because studying regular Caped Crusader patrols has made Professor Pennyworth realize that a Caped presence doesn't deter deter ruffians from attempting posterior aimed assaults. Also, if those sonar suits involve beeping, they may not be able to hear people sneaking up behind them as well as before. Harvey acting like he wants to be killed is because it's the only way a Robin that's still all assassination crazy would relent. Riddler wants to learn all about everyone's sexual fantasies because literally screwing with each Gotham citizen is the least important option for him after he defeats Batman. Bruce decides on a blatantly dumb option during his rescue choice situation because he believed Nigma would figure out anything smart, and also that Dick's gymnastics skills could solve the rest. Also, Mr. Wayne didn't believe Toothpaste would die here because he mostly remembers that Harvey half as a well-paid DA rather than a simple angel on a devil's shoulder kind of deal. That is, he can't imagine Mr. Dent as somebody who thinks loose coinage is worth the time to gather. Batman and Robin. The installation of bat nipples is because they are part of a defibrillator deal for emergency heart-starting purposes that gains power from the bioconductivity levels of undeveloped mammary glands. Hence why Dick and Bruce have them, but Barbara doesn't later. How ironic that the presence of life-nourishing chest what's-its actually makes death a fair bit more likely for her. Also, they now have more suits around because Alfred thought keeping extra spares was a good idea after Riddler destroyed so many during Forever. He could have very well been inspired after going over stolen clothing designs procured from raiding Nigma and Dent's hideout. Superman works alone. This comment strongly indicates the presence of every other DC hero in their universe. Based on that, the Flash's typical time travel trouble must have been what caused Batman to be 3 different dudes throughout these past few years. Diligent studying has made Bruce aware of this somehow. That's why he no longer takes any care to act any differently while disguised. Getting factual proof that your life is meaningless can do such a thing to a person. Anyway, hearing from Gordon about a museum being frozen resulted in the somewhat less dark Knight grabbing those ice skates from a special footwear section of his new Batmobile. That's why 2 people who regularly grapple through the skies and jump from buildings have those things in their suits, but not parachutes. Sure, their capes can kinda do something similar, but they are also always visible and capable of getting sliced up, so a backup option would make loads of sense. Also, Freeze thought they would keep such logical things with them at all times, hence him installing a glider into his suit. Victor and his goons always ride in such highly armored vehicles just in case they need to plow through any impromptu ice fortresses he makes in a fit of passion. Dr. Woodrue thought Pamela might be more accepting of his ideas because making plants human murder capable is really just as crazy as developing an army of super soldiers. Barbara doesn't really sport any trace of an English accent because she lost it after spending loads of time hanging out with American biker gangs after getting kicked out of college. The Bat credit card must be for paying off any property damage that happens during particularly tricky nights. Bruce would have developed it after realizing criminals might swipe any cash left behind with notes on certain interestingly themed stationery. Redbird deactivation occurs because sorta big bro kinda dad has been thinking a lot lately about how his parents would have felt if he got killed instead. There might be some semi-intelligent microscopic organisms in the venom. When they gather in a human brain, they can take it over and operate like some kinda pseudo-individual. Thus, Bane treats words like he's just learning them because it's actually not Antonio anymore, but rather an entirely new life form. Mr. Freeze winds up dressed like the Hamburglar instead of getting a solid colored jumpsuit because he once robbed a fast food place's freezer, which inspired Arkham's staff to make a joke after his capture. Of course, Alfred has already seen the best doctors. He'd be the one always making Bruce's appointments for an entire lifetime, after all. Victor probably didn't really think Batman would kill an innocent, defenseless person like Nora. Dude's likely only able to be tricked by Ivy because he started thinking that his new nemesis might not understand what kind of tech's involved and mistakenly unplug her so Gotham's power grid doesn't get drained, making a corpse look pretty. Robin thinks of just programming the satellites upside down rather than merely flipping those images like Batgirl does because, as an acrobat, he's rather used to being oriented every which way. Batman recorded that last Ivy encounter just in case those rubber lips didn't make his precious dick poison immune. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.